Alright, picture this. You're standing in the middle of one of the hottest, most desolate places on Earth, Death Valley. It's blisteringly hot, the sun beats down with no mercy, and the landscape looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Then, you notice something strange. A massive stone, weighing up to 700 pounds, has a long trail behind it, like it's been dragged across the desert floor. But there are no footprints, no tire tracks, no sign of anyone who could have moved it. And here's the kicker. People have been coming to this exact spot for years, watching these rocks move on their own. No one has ever seen it happen, but the evidence is right there. So, what's going on? Is it a natural phenomenon, or is there something supernatural at play here? Let's dive into the story of the mysterious moving stones of Death Valley, also known as the sailing stones, and explore what could possibly be causing these heavy rocks to glide across the desert floor without a single human touch. First, let's set the scene. The moving stones are found in a place called Racetrack Playa, a dry lake bed located in Death Valley National Park, California. Racetrack Playa is a flat, barren stretch of cracked, parched earth. It's surrounded by mountains, and the ground is so dry it looks like the surface of the moon. The place gets its name because it looks like a giant racetrack, but it's not for cars or people. It's for rocks. Now, these aren't just pebbles. Some of these stones weigh as much as 700 pounds, like giant boulders. What's weird is that they leave long, winding trails behind them, sometimes stretching for hundreds of feet. The paths can be straight, curved, or even zigzagged, as if the stones decided to take a little detour along the way. And the strangest part? No one has ever actually seen the rocks move. For decades, scientists, geologists, and curious tourists have tried to figure out how these stones are moving. There's no evidence of animals, no signs of people, and no obvious weather events strong enough to push these rocks. It's as if the stones have a mind of their own. When people first discovered the moving stones, there was a lot of speculation. Could it be the wind? Earthquakes? Maybe magnetic forces? And of course, the most intriguing theory, paranormal energy. Some even claimed it was the work of ghosts or aliens. Let's break down the most popular theories and find out which one holds up under scrutiny. One of the earliest explanations was that strong winds were pushing the rocks across the playa. Death Valley is known for its extreme weather, including powerful winds that can reach up to 90 miles per hour. It's easy to imagine a gust of wind pushing a small stone, but here's the problem. These rocks are heavy. Some are over 300 kilograms. The idea of wind strong enough to move such large stones seemed impossible. Plus, if wind were the only factor, we would expect the trails to be straight, but many of the tracks are curved or even zigzagged, which doesn't make sense if the wind is the sole cause. In the 1970s, scientists proposed a new theory involving water and ice. During rare winter rains, a thin layer of water covers the playa, and on especially cold nights, the water can freeze into a sheet of ice. As the sun rises the next day, the ice starts to melt and break apart, forming floating sheets that push against the rocks, causing them to slide. This idea made sense, sort of, but there was a big issue. No one had ever actually seen it happen. It was still just a theory. It wasn't until 2014 when researchers finally caught the stones in action. Using time-lapse cameras, they recorded small rocks moving slowly across the playa, driven by thin sheets of melting ice. It was a breakthrough, but while this solved part of the mystery, it didn't answer everything. It explained the movement of smaller stones, but didn't account for the larger rocks or the oddly shaped trails. Now, let's talk about the more mysterious side of this phenomenon. For years, people have speculated that something supernatural is behind the moving stones. Could it be some kind of unseen force, a magnetic field, or even paranormal energy? This might sound far-fetched, but the stone's unpredictable movement patterns have made some people wonder if there's more going on than meets the eye. One interesting story comes from a park ranger who was stationed at Death Valley in the 1960s. He claimed that he once camped near Racetrack Playa to observe the stones overnight. He didn't see anything unusual at first, but in the middle of the night, he heard a strange humming sound, almost like a low-frequency vibration. The next morning, he found that several of the rocks had moved significantly, leaving fresh trails in the dirt. He couldn't explain the sound or the sudden movement of the stones, and it left him wondering if there was some kind of energy in the area that science couldn't yet detect. In 2014, a team of researchers led by Richard Norris and his cousin James Norris decided to solve the mystery once and for all. They set up a series of GPS devices on several stones and placed time-lapse cameras around the playa. It took months of waiting, but finally, in December of that year, the cameras captured something incredible. The stones were moving slowly, almost imperceptibly, across the wet, icy surface of the playa. The researchers discovered that a combination of thin ice sheets and light winds, no more than 10 miles per hour, were enough to push the rocks. As the ice melted and broke apart during the day, it created small floating chunks that nudged the stones, causing them to slide and leave trails behind. This was a huge revelation, but it wasn't the end of the story. Even with this scientific explanation, many people still believe there's something more mysterious at play. The idea that simple ice and wind could move such large rocks is fascinating, but it doesn't fully account for every trail pattern or the stories of people who claim to have heard strange noises or felt an eerie presence near the playa. Despite the scientific findings, the mystery hasn't entirely gone away. Part of this is because of the playa itself. It's an eerie place. The vast, empty landscape, combined with the extreme heat and silence, can feel almost otherworldly. Many people who visit Racetrack Playa describe a sense of unease, like they're being watched. It's no wonder that some believe the stones are moved by forces beyond our understanding. There's also the matter of the odd patterns. Some of the rocks make sharp turns, or their paths suddenly change direction in ways that are difficult to explain. Could it be the result of some unknown energy or phenomenon? It's these little details that keep the mystery alive and make people wonder if there's more to the story than just ice and wind. Here's a fun, or maybe creepy, fact for you. Some people believe that taking a rock from Racetrack Playa will bring bad luck. Park rangers have reported receiving rocks in the mail from visitors who took a small stone home as a souvenir, only to experience a string of bad luck afterward. The letters often say something like, "Please return this rock to its rightful place. I've had nothing but misfortune since I took it." It's almost like the stones have their own curse, adding another layer of mystery to this already strange phenomenon. Today, the moving stones of Death Valley remain a popular attraction. People from all over the world come to see the strange tracks and to speculate about how these rocks glide across the desert floor. The scientific explanation has answered many questions, but it hasn't taken away the magic of the phenomenon. There's still something captivating about the idea of these stones moving silently, mysteriously, across one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. They remind us that even in the age of modern science, there are still mysteries out there waiting to be explored. So, what's your take on this mystery? Do you think it's all just ice, wind, and weather? Or is there something more unexplained happening here? If you enjoyed diving into this unsolved mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what other mysteries you want us to explore next. Until then, keep your eyes open and your mind curious, because sometimes the most unbelievable things can turn out to be real.